And we begin in Nigeria, where the federal government has announced plans to subsidize electricity in universities and public health institutions under Band A feeders. Now, this was disclosed by the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, during a recent radio interview in Ibadan. The government's decision comes after universities and public hospitals complained of skyrocketing electricity bills following the removal of subsidies for Band A customers. The institutions had seen their bills increase significantly, with the University of Lagos and Lagos University Teaching Hospital receiving a joint bill of 280 million naira for May, up from less than 100 million naira previously. The government subsidy will not apply to private businesses operating within these institutions. The former Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, has called on the government to declare war against insecurity following incessant reports of kidnapping sweeping across the country. In a statement on X on Saturday, Obi called for bold action, collective resolve, and a united front against insecurity. His outcry comes less than 24 hours after the kidnapping of the Anambra State Commissioner for Youth Development, Patrick Agamba, and his wife, who were kidnapped at the Kogi axis on their way to Abuja for the wedding of Governor Chukwuma Soludo's daughter. The commissioner's kidnapping incident comes hours after police authorities said that about 20 medical students had been kidnapped in Benue State while heading to Enugu State. Two former governors of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun and Benga Daniel, have pledged to support the federal government's efforts to recover national assets seized by a French court. A Chinese firm, Zhongshan Fangchang Industrial Investment Company Limited, had obtained a judgment leading to the seizure of 3 presidential jets, including a Dassault Falcon 7X, a Boeing 737, and an Airbus 330. The company claimed damages over a failed joint venture agreement with the Ogun State government. However, the former governors described the Chinese company as a scammer, stating there was no basis for the company's claims. They insisted that Nigeria should not negotiate with the company, as it would encourage unlawful appropriation of national assets. The federal government has been urged to take immediate action to recover the seized assets and protect Nigeria's interests. The Kaduna Concerned Groups Forum is calling on the federal government to take urgent action against foreign interference in Nigeria's domestic affairs. The group condemns the display of foreign flags by some protesters during recent nationwide protests, citing it as a violation of national unity and patriotism. KCGF demands an investigation and prosecution of those responsible, enforcement of legal consequences, and efforts to promote unity and patriotism among citizens. The group believes that displaying foreign flags undermines national sovereignty and dignity, and that holding those accountable is essential for preserving democratic institutions and processes. KCGF supports peaceful dialogue that fosters national unity and progress. And now to discuss this further, I'm joined by Rashid. He is the Deputy State Coordinator, KCGF. Rashid, many thanks for coming on. I appreciate you for doing this with us. I would like for you to start by elaborating on the specific incidents of foreign interference in Nigeria's domestic affairs that KCGF is concerned about.
Oh, thank you for having me. Well, it's quite unfortunate that the giant of Africa, Nigeria, we found ourselves in a political quagmire that even gives opportunity for some external forces to come and intrude into our country's affairs. They took advantage of the misinformed and the disinformed persons amongst us to unsettle our stability in the country. Quite all right, we know we have some domestic issues that is affecting us. And protest, the call for protest, peaceful protest, is reasonable for people. But we won't sit down and look at our country born inside flames. You understand? Some people are trying to take this advantage of uninformed people amongst us to set the country ablaze. So we won't sit and look at people do such.
And what concrete actions is the KCGF demanding from the federal government, especially to address these concerns?
Well, first off, we want the government to investigate and look thoroughly into this activity of these people. They've taken the advantage, like I said earlier, of the people that do not know amongst us. So we won't sit back. We want the government to take this into serious consideration, to investigate. After investigation, we want them to punish them. You understand? So that you serve as a stern warning to people that are going to carry out such activity in the future. You understand? So that's number two. And aside that, we want them to foster unity among us, all of us. You understand? Patriotism is number one. So quite all right, now they are hosting the Russian flags all around. We don't know the next one coming. We don't know which country they will come up, host around us. You understand? So we really do not want that. That's why we really want them to look into it and let them bring them into book, whoever it is, and no matter who the person is, let him be brought into book.
And I have to ask, you were talking about patriotism and unity. How does your group, KCGF, plan to engage with citizens and promote unity and patriotism among Nigerians?
Well, presently on the ground level, we've been doing such because KCGF is just a group of concerned people, understand, students, you understand, that really love the nation. Because no matter how the country is, your country, even if it is infested by rodents, you don't set it ablaze. You have to put up insecticides, even if it's infested by insects, but you don't set your house ablaze. So we've been doing that on our underground level. So that's why there are some things we can't do on the national level. That's why we are trying to put it forward to the government so that they can do.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you about what message you have for those who may be involved in or supporting foreign interference in Nigeria's domestic affairs.
Well, first off, if they are truly citizens of the country, my advice for them is to look into what is happening around sub-Saharan continent of Africa. Let them look at the Niger, what's happening with them now, Sudan and Mali. All these countries they are taking example of. The stability is not the way forward. No matter how it is, you don't have any other country than Nigeria. This is the only place we can call home. No matter how sweet they think it is elsewhere, it can never be sweeter than home. So we want them, even if they are nationals of the country, let them look inwards and know that we don't have any other country than Nigeria. And if they are external forces, if they are truly external forces, they should know our country will not sit back. And we, the people, will not sit back and look at them come and interfere and bring in instability and anything that will bring hitches into our sovereignty and what's it called, territorial integrity. So we'll sit back and look at it. We'll help the government. We'll work together with them to fish them out and serve them what's right and what's appropriate with them.
All right. Well, many thanks, Rashid Abubakar. We appreciate you for doing this with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
We'll switch from Kaduna now to Abuja, the capital, the Federal Capital Territory, as a section of the popular Kura Modern Market located opposite the Prince and Princess Market in the Kura district of Abuja was on fire. Was on Friday night gutted by fire. The fire, which reportedly started at about 11 p.m. on Friday, razed about 40 shops with items such as foodstuff, appliances, and household items lost in the inferno. Confirming the incident, the acting director of the FCT Fire Service, Kamala Adebayo, on Saturday stated that the fire was caused by an electrical spark on a power changeover installed in one of the shops, further aggravated by a generator kept inside the shop where the fire started. Still in Abuja, residents of the Bandara community in the Kurudu area of the Federal Capital Territory have called on relevant authorities to come to their aid over what they described as an attempt by an estate developer to forcefully evict them from their community. The residents who took to the streets after a recent demolition of some houses in the community say that despite a court order restraining the action of the developer, the properties of many families were still pulled down, making them homeless. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, reports.
Feeling distressed over the recent demolition of several houses on August the 15th, The residents of the Bandara community converged on the divisional headquarters of the Nigerian police in the Kurudu area of the Federal Capital Territory. Carrying placards, tree branches, and singing songs of solidarity, they then walked into the street where they alleged that an estate developer, under the supervision of the Nigerian police, the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps, and personnel from the Correctional Service jointly conducted the demolition.
All these developers, they hide under the banner of police. They are using police and will not quiet under this business, a one-man business. They are terrorizing us every day within 6 month interval, within a year interval.
This land belongs to Bandara community. The place that they give police is Orozo Kerishi Road, and we have consent judgment that show us a boundary.
12,000 families are involved in this place, and we are telling the government, the Nigerian citizens of Nigeria, to hear us. The location of this community is in Kurudu, behind Lavok, behind the police estate. They have always used police name to claim this place.
They cried out about the incessant intimidation by the estate developer since 2010, with no warrant of demolition, despite a court order mandating them to suspend their actions. They called on relevant authorities to intervene.
There is hunger in the land, and you are coming to add this to us? Is it proper? Is it proper? Mr. President Jagaban, the Tinubu, the president of this nation, we are calling your attention to this matter.
They will be asking us to be bringing money. Where are we going to get 5 million? I don't have 1 million accounts. The one that we have, they say to bring it by force, by force. I don't have the one that I'm going to bring. I bet we can come and assist us.
Nigerians, we are calling Kinjibe Ireti, our FCT senator. We are calling the chairman of AMAC. We are calling the former senator FCT, our father, Philip Aduda. We need all of you. We don't want to take laws into our hands.
They also promised to resist any further attempts to evict them if no action is taken.
We want DK to be cautioned. We want Udon to be cautioned. We want Andy to be cautioned. We don't want to take laws into our hands.
We are not going to take it any longer. The next time they come here and bring any roof down, we are going to go to the barrack for reproach. We are going to go to the estate for reproach. We are not pretending about that. So let this serve as a warning to whoever thinks he has money and have a right in his pocket.
According to the residents, this is the third time in about 14 years that they have faced demolition of their property with the intent to evict them from their community. They said the first was in 2011 and then 2016, and now the recent demolition which took place on August the 15th. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonko Joseph.
Hey, welcome back. Nigeria's federal government has been tasked to do more in ending irregular migration and human trafficking in the country. Now, this was during a training for actors in the faith community comprising Christian and Muslim leaders in Abuja on how to offer psychosocial support to victims and help them integrate back into the society. Amadine Uyi reports.
It was a gathering of religious faithful from both Nigeria's Christian and Muslim communities. The aim of the session was to educate religious leaders on how to give psychosocial care to migrants of irregular migration that have returned back to their country.
This entire training is a collaboration of the Lutheran Church of Christ in Nigeria and All Africa Conference of Churches, and it is basically focused on educating religious leaders or religious stakeholders from both the Muslims and the Christian perspective on psychosocial caregiving to returned migrants and survivors of human trafficking.
The core objective is to have us as religious leaders, as faith actors, to be trained in how to provide psychosocial support to return migrants and also to survivors, and again to be knowledgeable about the issue of migration, specifically irregular migration.
You find people being taken from one state to the other in large numbers, hundreds and thousands, in the name of Almajiri. That is trafficking. You find people being taken from one state to another for labor. That's trafficking. So these things have been with us, but I'm happy that this training will give further information on the need for us to pay attention to those things that happen around us.
While many believe that their experience is best told by the victims, one of them who spoke to News Central described her experience.
Through what I passed through, I wasn't thinking I would stand on my feet here today and stand this strong and also be alive today, but I still thank God because the trauma wasn't easy, seriously. I faced a lot. I seriously faced a lot because the experience, seriously, the experience is really hurting.
Those in attendance urge citizens and government to do more in ending irregular migration, which dehumanizes victims, is exploited by traffickers, and can be stemmed by better living conditions.
My call to action for stakeholders that are here today is to go back and be catalysts that will take back the message to educate people, their adherents, their neighbors, people around them, and to be peer pressure to the society or to the government as well, so that we will live up to expectation in restoring the dignity of humanity and preserving and protecting humanity from being devastated by these heinous people who prey on human existence.
The psychosocial support is there in the first place because there is irregular migration. Now the question should be, why are people migrating irregularly? Why are they leaving their comfort zone? That's what the African government should look at, then see how to make people comfortable.
They also called on government agencies responsible for tackling trafficking to work together in a bid to achieve more results. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Economic prosperity has been described as one of the major targets of every society and state for development to thrive. Now, these were the words of the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mufwang, while addressing the challenges faced by petty traders maintaining illegally constructed stores within the Jos Bukuru metropolis. News Central's Chizoba Anyowe tells us more.
They always pack our things and went away with it. And when we got there, they will charge us to court. They will say, lock. In fact, one of my woman fellow that is selling it, they lock that woman up. They bed that woman with 10,000 naira. Those common cheating and mineral, they collected 30,000 naira. For what?
That set the tone for this report. In September 2023, the government of Plateau State, under Executive Order 003, came on board. The objective, among others, is to scrap illegally constructed stores, impound vehicles parked in wrong places, and beautify the city center. Enforcement on this order began a few months ago, with offenders asked to pay various amounts of fine to retrieve their seized items. Traders and motorists have never been comfortable with this. However, Governor Mutfwang has recently reversed the order for traders, noting the economic hardship they experience.
We have instructed that all the demolitions be halted and that we are looking for spaces to develop community markets. But you agree with us that there is no society that thrives with lawlessness. That we must therefore balance between law and order, and also ensuring that there is an economic prosperity for our people.
News Central felt the pulse of these traders based on the governor's order, but the reverse was the case.
I personally, I collected chichi, 80,000 naira. These people seal it. And when I went there, they said they took it to orphanage home. For what? For what when I have my children, I have my grandchildren? Is it a cause? Is it a crime for us to look for daily bread?
Yesterday for Judith site, they pack about 3 cars. They pack people slow, they pack 3 cars. Today, they pack 2 cars for this down this entire site. Even we said they didn't allow us to put anything. We don't have anything to eat now to give our children. We don't have anything. See our children for house are just suffering, crying, no food to give them.
I just feel like crying. We are suffering. Things are very bad. We are going through a lot. This is not what we bargained for. We were happy, we were dancing that the right governor we wanted has come. But everything just turned up to become as in so painful.
How the governor's order will see the light of the day remains their worry.
I left my house, nothing to give my children. They are crying, I just go away. I go borrow the load from market now to come and sell it. Then run to come and pick it. Now so I'm running with it since in the morning reach this time. I don't know how to do. Please, the governor should pity us and help us. If not, we don't know what we will do.
How are we going to cope? We have children to feed, we have school fees to pay. We are just struggling. Things are not easy with us. We are not happy. We are telling the governor we are not happy. He should do something about it.
He's always trying. Even ourselves, we are praising the governor that let him try more to help us to also be established in our life.
He should consider we that are operating low level. We have no money for shop, that is number one. Secondly, if there is a place he can just give us freely on his own, he should send the authority to come and do that for us.
As these traders continue to wallow in their plight, they have also continued to ask the government of the day to listen to their cries, even as they look for better ways of getting their means of livelihood. From the Terminus Main Market in Jos, Chizoba Anyongwe, reporting for News Central.
And away from Plateau State and now to Lagos State, where the governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has commissioned the Mushin flyover, the last of the 5 overpasses built along the Red Line rail corridor. The infrastructure is expected to relieve motorists and commuters connecting Agege Motor Road from Onikpanu of traffic and to solve congestion and delays associated with the railway level crossing at Ogumokun axis. Sanwo-Olu said the opening of the Mushin flyover was another fulfillment of his administration's promise to the residents, noting that the infrastructure had changed the face of public transportation in the state.
We say things, it might not be as quick as you want it, but we'll bring it to conclusion. And so we're here. We're here to fulfill what this government had said. We had promised Lagosians that we're going to change the face of rail public transportation in Lagos. But in doing that, we'll also be solving a lot of traffic, transportation, vehicular movement solutions for our citizens. This overpass is strategically important to ensure that that is the Mushin station right behind you, which Mr. President commissioned concurrently earlier in the year. And you know that we promised 5 overpasses. This is the 5th one that this administration has promised, and we have delivered. We have delivered.
And we head to Southern Africa, where Southern African leaders have wrapped up their summit in Harare, Zimbabwe, with a focus on the growing threat of Mpox. The 44th Southern Africa Development Community Summit saw leaders discussing the continent's challenges, including the spread of Mpox to over a dozen African countries. SADC Executive Secretary Elias Magosi announced that an emergency meeting of health ministers will be held to coordinate a response to the outbreak. The meeting aims to facilitate a unified approach to combat the spread of Mpox in the region.
We have amicably come to a conclusion where we are all agreed on the issues and challenges facing our region. Meanwhile, we pay special tribute to the sacrifice and contribution of the SADC forces in the now closed SADC mission in Mozambique, Zambia, and the ongoing SADC mission in Garrison, South Garrison, in our collective endeavor to have a stable and peaceful region.
SADC directed the Secretariat to convene an urgent meeting of ministers of health to assess the impact of Mpox and facilitate coordinated regional response to control the spread of the disease.
Still in South Africa, with South Africans and authorities amping up the pressure on immigrants and increasing raids on those in the country illegally working without permits or committing crime, some churches have taken upon themselves to encourage the immigrants community to desist from committing crime. Today, the church members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church are in the streets of Yeovil, Berea, and Hillbrow in Johannesburg suburbs, largely dominated by immigrants from other African countries. Drug abuse, robberies, and murder have become the order of the day in these areas, and foreigners are accused of being behind these crimes. The organizers of this match also providing counseling help and as well as services to residents. News Central's Bongani Ziziba is at the march at the moment, giving us more update as we're about to cross over to her for more situational update on the match. Well, Bongani, well done so far with all the work this morning and now into afternoon. What's the latest with the procession with the church members?
Yes, Judith, quite a beautiful afternoon. From morning we've been on this story, and now they've come to an end of this program where they marched in the streets of Yeovil, Berea, speaking to people in this community about the dangers of drugs and also the dangers of crime. And I think it was a beautiful march. We have seen other people on the streets also coming along, speaking to them, which means that they are accepting these kind of marches and these kind of conversations. But let me bring in one of the organizers again, just to speak about this event. But one thing that was so beautiful that I witnessed here is seeing the young youths also getting involved in this march, and also some young people. You have seen one of the young girl who recited a beautiful poem, which means that they are being instilled that discipline from a young age. But let me not take much time and just bring the organizer. Why is events like this so important? I've seen how your church especially instill discipline in young children, in young youth. Why is it important to start at a young age? As the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we prioritize our young people as we see them as a vital investment for the next generation. So we try by all means to help them to shape their future into becoming the committed disciples of Jesus Christ. We want them to create a sense of belonging and connection among the community and help them feel in a larger part of the community. That is why we want to put this discipline in them, so that whenever they go out there, people may see a difference, that being a pathfinder can help you behave at your best. Yes, Judith, growing up, I was also a pathfinder, so I really understand what this means. But let me just bring one young girl here who recited a beautiful poem about the dangers of drugs. Good afternoon. Can you just recite your poem again?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Namtanda Chuma. I'm here to talk about child trafficking. Child trafficking is when a child is being bullied. Child trafficking is also when a child is being taken without the child's permission. Child trafficking is when a child is being taken to a certain place that is not safe for some child. Child trafficking is when some person is taken without the child's permission. Child trafficking is when a child is being taken and sold to other people for money just because they want to buy drugs. Let's make this world a better world. Let's make it safer for children and comfortable for children. Let's make it loving, comfortable, and safer. Thank you.
Yes, also child trafficking is one of the crimes, not one of the crimes, but one of the highest crimes that we have seen here in South Africa. Let me bring in another young boy just to recite his poem too.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Quentin Dube. Today, I'm going to talk about cocaine. Cocaine is a highly addictive drug that has severe and long-lasting consequences for an individual's health and overall well-being. Some of the disadvantages of using cocaine include: cocaine is highly addictive and can lead to physical dependence and withdrawal symptoms when use is stopped. Cardiovascular problems. Cocaine use can increase heart rates and blood pressure, leading to heart attacks, strokes, and other cardiovascular problems. Thank you.
Yes, Judith.
All right.
Those are the young people from the Seventh-day Adventists who are here. Just you have heard, their poems are so beautiful, but also educative. So this is one of the programs that they do at this church. They not only educate children from this church, but also the community of the dangers of crime, the dangers of drugs, and also how the community can live together and stay away from the drugs. Because especially in this community, the youths are the ones that are so much into drugs. It's back to you in the studio.
Well, many thanks, Mungani. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Mungani Zaziba there in Johannesburg, the suburb there in South Africa, giving us some update on some churches as they march against drug abuse in the community. We'll switch gears now to Sudan, where its health minister has declared a cholera epidemic in the war-torn country due to contaminated drinking water and heavy rainfall. The decision was made in conjunction with UN agencies and experts after the discovery of the cholera virus. The country has been embroiled in a war since April 2023, leading to a humanitarian crisis with over 25 million people facing acute hunger. Flooding has displaced thousands, causing an increase in sickness, including diarrhea. Cholera can cause severe dehydration and death within hours. The WHO has reported over 300,000 cases and 2,300 deaths in 26 countries. Sudan's war has hindered humanitarian efforts, with both sides accused of war crimes. Ceasefire talks began in Switzerland, but the Sudanese army refused to participate.
هي محلية يعني فيها إشكالية بتاع إنه 69% من المواطنين بيعتمدوا في مصدر الشرب على موية النهر. بالتالي هي مويه ملوثه ومحتاجه لمعالجه، ودي يمكن داير لها متطوعين او معززين لتعقيم المياه من النهر. والله الوفيات يمكن عدد الحالات يمكن 7 وفيات، وعدد الحالات يمكن تقريبا 150 حاله.
اول كان عندنا موت البحر وبعدين قطعوها وهو نشر موت الدون كده.
Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has accused Ethiopia of refusing to recognize Somalia's sovereignty. In a recent address, Mohamud stated that Ethiopia's agreement with the breakaway region of Somaliland violates international law. The agreement grants Ethiopia access to the sea in exchange for recognition of Somaliland's independence. The international community, including the US, EU, China, African Union, and Arab League, has called on Ethiopia to respect Somalia's sovereignty. Indirect talks between Somalia and Ethiopia, facilitated by Turkey, have shown progress, with another round scheduled for September 17th. Ethiopia, the second most populous country in Africa, has sought access to the Red Sea since losing it in 1993. Somaliland, a relatively stable region, seeks international recognition despite its strategic location. And now to North Africa, where 95 Libyans are detained in South Africa since July will be deported back to Libya on Sunday. Now, the men were found at a suspected military training camp in northeastern South Africa and had their visas cancelled for being irregularly acquired. They were initially charged with violating immigration rules, but the case was dropped due to insufficient evidence. The Libyan government has paid for their flight back home. South Africa's Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber has commended officials for their work in deporting the group and vowed to continue enforcing immigration laws. The men had entered South Africa in April on visas issued for security guard training, but police suspected they were receiving military training. And we are fast approaching November 2024 ahead of the U.S. elections. Now, Donald Trump has launched a fresh wave of personal attacks against Vice President Kamala Harris as new polling shows her gaining ground in key battleground states ahead of the Democratic National Convention. At a rally in Pennsylvania, Trump criticized Harris on issues like inflation. Now, he also spoke on her appearance, and Trump said he's much better looking than her. Now, despite advice from Republicans and advisors to focus on the issues, Trump continues to use his popularist and confrontational style, straying from his script to deliver insults. Now, this approach has raised concerns among his team, who worry it may alienate undecided and independent voters, crucial to his chances in the November election.
You don't mind if I go off teleprompter for a second, do you? Joe Biden hates her. This was an overthrow of a president. This was an overthrow. They went out, you know, I spent $100 million fighting Joe Biden. They told him he couldn't win. His debate performance wasn't the best ever. But they said mine was the best ever. But they said his debate performance wasn't. I look forward to debating her, by the way. She'll be easier. She'll be easier than him. But he said, this woman is nuts. Look, people say, be nice. Have you heard her laugh? That is the laugh of a crazy person. That is the laugh of a crazy. It's the laugh of a lunatic. Have you heard it? You know, they prohibited her. They prohibited her for laughing. I've been waiting for her to laugh, because as soon as she laughs, the election's over. But we're winning by a lot in Pennsylvania. I think the fracking got her. The fracking got her. She said one thing that got me. She said Kamala has one big advantage. She's a very beautiful woman. She's a beautiful woman. So I decided to go back and reread the clause. I'm not saying he's, but I say that I am much better looking than her. I think I'm much better. Much better. I'm a better looking person than Kamala.
In the visuals there, you just watch as Trump at the Pennsylvania rally for ahead of the election, making some very crude comments about Vice President Kamala Harris. And so to discuss this further, I'm being joined by Ejike Opai, he's a global affairs analyst, joining us live from Texas, USA. Well, we're pressed for time, sir, but many thanks for joining us this morning, afternoon-ish. But let's get started. Looking at that video and seeing how much he's straying, from the real issues, I'll have to ask, what are the most critical issues that will sway undecided voters in this election?
Thank you for having me. I am not perturbed by the antics, the personal antics of candidates in America. That's just the nature of campaign. You stick to the script, and then you'll also get off the script. But the point is that we know what the issues are. There's no issue that Trump is going to introduce now that we, the Americans, don't already know. So what he does is what Trump does. Those who are going to vote for him will vote for him regardless, and then those who will not vote for him will not vote for him. So the point is that we're excited that at least we now know who we are facing. Kamala Harris, her record is out there, Trump's record, out there as well. So you compare and contrast. The election in November is about the soul of America. Do we want to, go with what Joe Biden has given us in, support of Kamala Harris as number 2? Or do we want to, see an America that is a republic, not necessarily a democracy? We have to make that distinction. America is not a democracy. America is a republic. And so when people get confused as to the use of those two words, I say, go back to the American Constitution. The word democracy was never used. So that being the case, we have to rescue America. And, fortunately, unfortunately, those are the two candidates we're going to be voting for. And so Americans are, are concerned. I'm a Republican. I'm a Trump supporter. I am nervous because, Kamala can win. And if Kamala wins, we know what we're going to get. So whatever that will destabilize her, put her in the position that we already know she is. And it's all a good win for us. It's all a good strike, You know, offense to be offensive is oftentimes better when you want to defend what it is you want to defend.
I want to ask again, just to be clear. I don't know if I got that right. Did you just say that you are a Republican and you support Trump? Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, I'm a Trump supporter.
Okay.
I mean, I supported him from the first time. And, you know, if Trump had won,
as a supporter, I have to ask: what are some critical issues then would you like for him to address to stay away from the antics? Because I mean, we've seen, you know, some key players in the Republican Party who've asked that he sticks to the script and speak to the issues so that he can sway the undecided and independent voters. What are some critical issues you, as a supporter, what are some critical issues you would like for him to address?
You know, good point. I have even written, you know, people who know that I support Trump have contacted me and said, hey, can you get a message across? And I have used the channels that I know to send. I'm not a campaign manager. When a candidate is behind the podium, who knows what other things that persuades them to do what it is they do. But the issues that I would like to see happen is our border, our southern border. A country integrity is violated when people, willingly and wishfully enter it. We need to secure our border. Nobody should die coming to America. Come to America legally like I did, you know, and then you avail yourself of the benefits. You know, the nuisance of other countries should not be the burden of America. When people just come in here just because of the fact that things are hard in their country, I say you don't even know things are harder in America. But that does not warrant you, just like your neighbor. You don't go crashing the door of your neighbor, jumping the fence because they have a better life based on your own imagination. So I want him to speak to that. I want him to talk about the economy. I want him to talk about oil and gas. I mean, America has more oil and gas than any other country. We are the largest producer of oil and gas. So we don't have to buy from countries that when we buy from them, they turn around and they whack their fingers in front of us. So those are the issues. The issues are very simple. We want public safety. We want a stable economy. We want the interest rate we pay our money on borrowed capital to be back to what it was when he was in office the first time. And that's those, Americans know those things, and that's what they want to see come January 2025.
But we wait to see whether or not former President Donald Trump will be addressing these issues and stick to script. But hey, Educate, want to say many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for coming on. Educate Opai is a global affairs analyst, and he joined us live to discuss the elections. We'll switch gears now to sports, where South African fighter Du Plessis submitted Nigerian-born Israel Adesanya in the fourth round of a captivating contest to retain his middleweight title at UFC 305 in Perth, Australia. Ahead of the fight, there have been tensions over race and identity. It ended on a dramatic note as Du Plessis won with a rare naked choke. Former two-time champion Adesanya came into the fight desperate to reclaim the belt he lost to Sean Strickland last September. Du Plessis, who was trailing 2-1 on the scorecards into the fourth round, turned the tide with several powerful hooks and jabs, followed by a decisive takedown. Once he locked Adesanya into the choke, the Nigerian-born fighter had no choice but to submit. Du Plessis, who joined the UFC in 2020, won the title of Sean Strickland in January and was making the first defense of his belt. Former UFC middleweight champion Adesanya, meanwhile, was fighting for the first time in 11 months after taking a break from the sport, citing mental and physical fatigue after contesting 5 titles bouts in 16 months. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Nigerian government to subsidize electricity for universities and hospitals. Sudan officially declares cholera outbreak. And we also told you that Donald Trump unleashes fresh attacks on Vice President Kamala Harris. Now remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Judith, Atibi.